I'm sure, like I said, we're getting deep in the weeds here. Most people in your audience don't care.
So
but,
when they pull but Limited Lou was on there, Lou Evans, former Vol great, out of the portal. And when they pull the plug on you in reality television, you are a nutcase, right?
Correct. Oh no. I mean, Tony, not just they pulled it like, this is back during March Madness, so we didn't have time to get in these weeds, but like it was supposed to start on a Sunday and they pulled it on like the Friday before. Like it was like this video came out, was like terrible with her and the boyfriend. She's basically throwing chairs at him and their kids right there. And one of the chairs hit the kid. It's honestly very sad, but, yeah, I mean, this was not like they found out while filming she was crazy. This was the entire show was filmed. It was she was doing press. She was going up to ABC, like Disney, Good Morning America, or whichever show's theirs, and like doing press all week. And they pulled it like 48 hours out.
Yes.
So anyway, all right. I was going to go quickly around the horn on all three sports, kind of bouncing off our topics. What do you want me to do first?
You go. Your dance floor, bro. Yep.
Basketball. I guess my one quick question to you on this, Tony, and I think most of us here can connect the dots on who this point guard is we're trying to go at. I'm curious from your perspective, what is our angle to him? Because to me, I've been skeptical of this the whole time once I heard the name. Obviously, the team he plays for can pay him just as much money, or will pay him just as much money, I assume. They have no one on their team right now. That school that he's at right now, they found him. I would think there'd be a little loyalty there. So I've just never quite understood what our pitch is, other than, hey, we got to the Elite Eight, which we did, and that was great.
He wanted to play here first.
Yeah.
He likes this place. He likes Rick Barnes. Their pitch to him is, you're projected, and hang right there. We'll finish that up. I want to remind the living listener, the playbook with William Pattison is on the way next here on Fan Run Radio. We're going to continue to do whatever it is we're doing here, and I'm not even sure if there's a name for it, but we call it like an overtime segment, and it'll go as long as I feel like it, which today might not be all that long, but let's see how things play out. I love you. I appreciate you. I want to thank anybody that joined us today. I want to thank all of our wonderful sponsors. Please support them when you get the opportunity. And here is, on Fan Run Radio, the playbook with the great William Pattison.
You're listening to FM 105.7 and AM 1340, WKGN Knoxville, and W289CU Knoxville. Fan Run Radio.
And here we go. Live from the White Claw Hard Seltzer Studios, it's the playbook on Fan Run Radio. With Brett Hullander, Will Palumbo, and Garrett Armbrust, I'm William Pattison. We appreciate you listening along with us on this fine Monday from Knoxville, Tennessee. And boy, do we have plenty to cover over the next 2 hours, including the latest transfer portal intel for Tennessee basketball, picking up 2 commitments over the week, but there is still a lot of work left to be done. A visitor scheduled to arrive on campus on Wednesday, a couple of other targets that Tennessee has reaffirmed their position with. So much to cover. We'll break it down. We'll also discuss the Lady Vols side of things. A number of visitors this past weekend as Kim Caldwell looks to continue to add to her transfer portal class heading into the 2026 season. And then also Tennessee baseball. What a weekend it was for the Vols in Starkville. A clean sweep 3-0. That's exactly what the doctor ordered for this Tennessee group. And about to start a 9-game homestand in Knoxville. We'll tell you how Tennessee can carry that momentum from this weekend the rest of the way. And we'll also discuss what went down at the orange and white game on Saturday inside Neyland Stadium. Kind of a glorified practice, if you ask me, but a couple of tidbits that we can break down from over the weekend. So plenty to cover over the next 2 hours. So happy you're here. If you're on that YouTube live stream, make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss any Fan Run content. And again, as I've reiterated multiple times, folks, around this time of year, it's important to do so because everything continues to develop. And with the transfer portal, it's all over the place. So make sure to like and subscribe. We want to hear from you as well. Use that comment section to weigh out your thoughts on the portal process, the orange and white game, the base Vols, and much more. And before we get into the action, let's welcome in the rest of the crew, beginning with Brett. Brett, how are you today?
Pretty good. That was a great weekend for UT Athletics and final round, the Masters. Well, all weekend, all 4 days of the Masters was elite stuff. Congrats to Rory again. But, yeah, a good weekend. A lot of soccer for me. Some family stuff sprinkled in. So busy time trying to keep up with the portal as well as much as I could. But, yeah, excited to talk about it. And, yeah, looking forward to the good show with y'all.
Yeah, a little bit of breaking news, too. Kim English headed to North Carolina, going to be an assistant under Mike Malone. He was a former assistant under Rick Barnes, obviously was the coach for Providence this past season, was relieved of those duties. There was some talk of maybe Tennessee landing him back in Knoxville to fill that assistant coach vacancy with Justin Gainey going to North Carolina, or North Carolina State, I should say. But that was also solved over the weekend. We'll talk about that later on, but Kim English headed to North Carolina. Will, to you, how are you? How was the weekend?
I'm doing great. Very busy weekend. I got the golf Friday, which is nice. Nice weather that day. Then just a ton of parents in town, so got to go to dinner and didn't spend a lot of my own money this weekend, so that was nice. Ran into Garrett Saturday night. And just a lot of sports this weekend. Not the biggest Rory fan, but, still good to see a guy like that win, but a pretty fun weekend overall.
Yeah, and you bring up the Masters. Masters went down this weekend, too. Just so much to unpack after a big weekend of sports. And Garrett, to you, how are you today?
Yeah, it was a good weekend. Me and Will ran into each other Saturday night. And then, watched the Masters yesterday. Tennessee sweep. It was a good weekend of sports and excited to get into some portal talk and talk about the baseball series.
All right, well, let's get into it, folks. Too much to cover. We might not have enough time for it all, but let's try to fit it in, right? We'll begin with our Transfer Portal Central as we pick up on this Monday afternoon with two new commitments over the weekend. Miles Rubin out of Loyola Chicago and Day Ames out of California. A guard from California is Ames, and then for Rubin, a center from Loyola Chicago. And both of these guys took visits over the weekend. Rubin was at the orange and white game on Saturday, and Ames was technically the first guy to publicly announce his commitment. And then on Sunday, we got Rubin, who I was told internally committed to Barnes on Saturday. So some good news for Tennessee as they continue to pick up steam in the portal process. And we talked a lot about both of these guys last week, but now 3 total players in this transfer portal class for the Volunteers. And we'll begin specifically with Miles Rubin out of Loyola Chicago, a 6'10", 220-pound center who started in all 33 games in 2025 and averaged a team-leading 11.3 points and 7.1 rebounds per game. The Chicago, Illinois native shot 58.5% from the field and became the program's all-time leader in blocks with 237 in his career. He did shoot just 54.3% at the free throw line, a number you'd like to see improve when he arrives on Rocky Top. But considering how the team shot free throws this season, that might not be something that's going to happen, but we'll see. But Amaro Morgan, a big role in the recruitment of Rubin here. He's an assistant coach for Tennessee, joined the staff this offseason, or I guess prior to this season, I should say. And he recruited Rubin out of high school during his time at Loyola Chicago. So a nice connection there, able to land him on campus and able to get a commitment out of him before he leaves. And that's what it's all about in the portal, as we've discussed over the last couple of weeks. Got to get these guys on campus, got to get them to sign the dotted line before they leave, and that's exactly what happens here. And I think the main point of emphasis for me is Tennessee finding value in the transfer portal with a guy in Rubin that might not be as highly regarded as a Flore Badunga from Kansas, but when you look at the advanced numbers, it's a guy that stacks up pretty similar. This is a guy that's really good at alley-oops. He's a really good dunker. He's a really good blocker. All those characteristics you had with Felix Akpara this past season. I'm not saying that Ruben's going to be the exact same as Felix Akpara, who is incredibly gifted, and I think Tennessee will realize his value this upcoming season. But Ruben is a guy that you don't have to pay $4 million for, that still had his equal production as one of the top guys in this portal class in Badunga. That's going to cost you about 2 times the money. So I look at this as a value play for Tennessee as they continue to be aggressive in the recruitment for Juke Harris, continue to be aggressive in the recruitment for Terrence Hill Jr. and other guys that are on this portal board. I like the addition of Ruben. I think you will as well. Garrett, to you, what do you make of the addition with the center from Loyola Chicago, Miles Ruben?
Yeah, I mean, he has, similar characteristics to what you saw Akpara have. Obviously, very good shot blocker, 237 blocks in his career at Loyola Chicago, and then obviously team leading for them, 11 points, 7 rebounds. So kind of has a full package. He can rebound the ball. Obviously, he plays solid defense, which will go well into a Rick Barnes, system. And then, he gives you some points on the alley hoop and close to the basket. So similar game to Akpara. Saw some quotes on him talking about how he felt like he could come in and kind of be a similar player to what Akpara was, looked up to Akpara and wanted to do what he did during his time at Tennessee. So I think this is a guy, obviously you said you get him for the less money. I mean, Badunga would have been around probably $4 million. Obviously you said this would be half. So you're looking at the $2 million range. That just gives you more money that you can go get on other guys and guards that can score points, because that's also what you're going to need in the system. But I mean, I think you got to like his game. Obviously, the A10, is not the same as the Big 12 of what Badunga's out of. But still, I mean, if you look at the advanced stats from what you put out on your Twitter, it did seem like he was a pretty, analytically similar player. So I think this is a good pickup. You wanted to get him and Ames this weekend, both on visits and to commit, and you did that back-to-back days. So you locked them down. You went 2 for 2, so you can't complain about that at all.
Brett, to you, what do you make of the addition of Ruben?
I love it. I think he's being vastly underrated just because of the league he was in and things like that. I think the numbers speak for himself. You like the quotes coming from Barnes today regarding him. We've had a lot of success with our bigs over recent years, and Kyle Alexander and Felix and Fulkerson, whoever you want to throw in the mix. We talk about the point guard and how much success Barnes has had. I think you could equate that to having a good rim protector and things like that, the linchpin of the defense. And I think this guy brings like the traits you guys said that Barnes and company look for, can guard on the perimeter, and he's versatile and things like that. So, you really like the pickup, and for half the price of some of these other guys. And I think a lot of the bigs, it's really not that hard to find a big that can do a job, and I think this guy's going to prove his worth pretty quickly, and I love it for the Vols for next year.
Now, when you look at some of his advanced defensive metrics, not necessarily the strongest guy down low, but what I will add is he's a really good help defender. And a lot of those blocks that he accumulated with the Ramblers is because he's coming over and making a play, blocking a shot in a contested format. So he might not be the strongest, one-on-one matchup defender, but he's a really good help defender, and that's very valuable for a Rick Barnes team that has a number of really good defenders over his time at Tennessee, and having the ability to already be a really good help defender, I think is going to pair well in a Rick Barnes system and also in SEC play when you're going up against some of the best. But Will, to you, what do you make of the addition of Ruben?
Yeah, I think you guys summed it up pretty well. I mean, like you just said, he's obviously not the best one-on-one defender, but I think he's great at disrupting the offense in the paint, right? Like you said, that help defending. He's an elite rim protector, 237 career blocks, and then he's efficient in the interior, which is exactly what we need, right? Obviously, you want to see that free throw percentage come up, and it's probably going to be quite difficult to do that. But, I mean, he's going to be great around the rim, great rebounding presence, and I think he'll be really efficient in the pick-and-roll systems that we've seen be pretty successful in Rick Barnes' offense.
A guy he could possibly be in the pick-and-roll system with is Day Ames, a California guard who also committed this weekend. He made it official on Saturday, and this was a pure scorer for the Volunteers. 6'2" guard, also from Chicago, Illinois. He averaged 16.9 points, 2 rebounds, and 2.2 assists this past season, and ranked in the 91st percentile in usage rate. And he began his career at Kansas State and Virginia, played at Cal this past season. Assistant coach Amaro Morgan, a guy we mentioned earlier, he had a big role in this recruitment as well, as he recruited Ames to California out of the portal last offseason. And when he decided to enter his name this year, Morgan made sure to bring him to Knoxville. So another Morgan connection here for the Volunteers. But I look at Ames as a starting 2 or your 6th man right now. Now, it depends on how you fill out the rest of the roster. But if Ames ideally is your 6th man, that's a really strong scorer coming off the bench. And I kind of compare it to Duke Miles at Vanderbilt. Miles was a guy that was, in the starting lineup, came off the bench, a little bit of both. But when he came into the game, he was a pure scorer. And that was big against Tennessee in the SEC tournament. Miles went for a career-high 30-plus points. Having a guy like that off your bench that can provide instant offense is very valuable. If you don't add another 2 guard, then he's likely your starting 2. I don't view him as a true point guard, so I don't think he's going to be your 1. And you look at the numbers, they're kind of self-explanatory. Averaged 17 points a game, but only 2.2 assists, and was in the 91st percentile in usage rate. So he's got the ball in his hands, but he's not necessarily a playmaker, but that's okay, because if he ends up being your 6th man, a guy like that coming off the bench, incredibly valuable for any roster in the country. And I think he's another strong addition for Tennessee as they continue to build out and fill out the rest of this roster that loses a number of players. But if you're kind of going for a comparison here, Bishop Boswell was a really good defender on the perimeter, but was limited offensively. Having a guy like Ames, if he is your starting 2, that's a big pop of offense. And if he does end up coming off your bench, that helps out big time as well. I like Ames a fair amount here for Tennessee as they continue to build this team. Will, to you, what do you make of Day-Day Ames out of California?
Yeah, I mean, I love him, right? I agree with you that I think he should either play the 2 or be the 6th man. You mentioned the 91st percentile usage rate. That either means that he's going to always have to have the ball in his hands, or he's going to have to really adjust to not being the guy always taking the shot, right? I mean, I'm sure Rick Barnes can coach that up pretty well. I mean, he's a great 3-level scorer. I think he can score at any place on the floor, but only 2.2 assists, so we'd obviously like to see that change. But, I mean, just he's got a lot of confidence and a great volume shooter. So I really like him either playing the 2, like you said, kind of being off the ball, and then just hitting his shots, I think. And I think it's definitely a guy that we need, right? Because we've mentioned how poor the offense has been the past couple of years, especially at the end of the tournament. So having a guy like that you can kind of rely on and trust to hit those shots is great.
Yeah, could provide a big pop off the bench for you, Garrett. What do you make of Ames' game?
Yeah, obviously you have to like him. As Will said, 3-level scorer, shoots the 3 ball pretty solid. Virginia 2 years ago shot at 40% from 3, can get to the rim, attack the basket, a pretty good handle. So I think you like all of that. I think if he comes off the bench, obviously he provides scoring. Your team over the past couple seasons has had kind of these issues where you go on scoring droughts. You don't score for 4 or 5 minutes, and a lot of the time that happens when you have kind of your second team in there. You have maybe a Gillespie or an Amen on the bench, and you're just trying to find someone to be able to score. Obviously, Ames gives you that ability, or if he starts, he's just a threat to be able to score at any moment. I don't really look at his usage rate and stuff like that as a concern because he's going to be playing completely different here. At Cal, he was on a team that was not very good. He was their leading guy, played 32 minutes a game. I think when he comes to Tennessee, he realized he's not going to be the number 1 scoring option on this team. He's going to have the ability to get the ball a lot and play a lot of minutes, but I think you'll see the assist rate go up just with the players that he's going to be playing around. Obviously, Lundblade, is going to be a very good 3-point shooter. Obviously, we just spoke about Ruben a second ago. You're going to be able to get the ball to him in the paint, and then obviously you have other guys that you're going to get in the portal and stuff. So I just think it's going to be a better fit offensively for him than it was at Cal. So I think it's going to work out good for Tennessee here.
Ames will play for his 4th team in as many seasons. I've seen a lot of people complaining about that, but folks, for Tennessee's case, it doesn't matter. He's a senior anyway, so he's got 1 year of eligibility remaining. It's not like this is a long-term prospect, a long-term project. He's here for a season, and he's going to finish it out on Rocky Top. That's good with me. Brett, what do you make of Ames's game, and where do you see him fitting alongside, a couple of these guys you've got on the roster like a Tyler Lundblade?
Yeah, this has to be a bench guy for me. I've said it all along. I don't like. He just seems like he needs the ball the whole time. I just don't know. I haven't seen any clips of him playing off ball. Everything you see with this guy, almost exactly the opposite of Lundblad. You see him run off screens and things like that. So I do wonder how that fit happens. And I think if you're telling me he's coming off the bench and you've got a solid starting five and you want that instant pop off the bench, like we've mentioned with Jordan Gainey, he didn't start, but he came on and provided a spark at times when we were slow going. So if you're telling me that for a role, then I love the idea of him. Maybe he seems like a 6 man of the year type with his game and all that you just come in and you're instant offense. So I am interested and intrigued by this one. It has the potential, but I do worry about him being this kind of one-way player as far as needing the ball. That's the way his whole career has been. Can he adjust in his fourth year of college basketball? Remains to be seen. But if you're telling me he's a bench guy, then yeah, I love the idea of him coming off the bench and providing that spark if we get off to slow starts, things like that. So, but I'm all for finding scores, and this guy's a scorer. So we'll see how it works.
Well, we got two in the boat this weekend. Tennessee got two in the boat this weekend. But now there are a couple of new names we need to discuss, and those are the guys that Tennessee is still pursuing. We'll begin with a visitor scheduled to arrive in Knoxville on Wednesday, and that is Terrence Hill Jr. out of Virginia Commonwealth, VCU as well. But the 6'3", 180-pound guard was a star player for the Rams this past season. He averaged 15 points on 46.6% shooting from the field, and he's from Portland, Oregon. He scored 34 points in the Rams' upset win over North Carolina in the round of 64. You were probably watching that game and said, who is this cat? Well, that's Terrence Hill Jr., and he's set to take a visit to Kansas in addition to Tennessee. Spoke to his agent over the weekend. He got back to me a little bit of a late hour, but decided to lock it in with the Volunteers in addition to the Jayhawks, and Tennessee's going to work really hard to try to lock this guy down. This could be your starting point guard if things go to plan, at least currently with the guys that are in the portal. But I like Terrence Hill Jr. a lot, and again, it's all about filling out your roster of guys from top to bottom that can go play. We'll talk more about Juke Harris here in a moment. Another new name, Jalen Harlison out of Notre Dame. But again, Terrence Hill Jr., you get this guy on campus, you're trying to get things done. And the thing I like about him the most is that in a big game setting, he was great. He was nails for the Rams in a big game up against North Carolina, trailing by double digits. The odds were against him, and he leveled up his play on a grand stage. And that's the type of player you need in Knoxville, type of player you need in the tournament, one that elevates his game when the pressure rises. And that was Terrence Hill Jr., and I think he would be your starting point guard if he were to sign with the way the roster is currently constructed and the guys you're going after in the portal currently. But Garrett, to you, what do you make of Terrence Hill Jr.? Is this a player you'd like to see Tennessee lock it down with?
Yeah, I mean, another guy, obviously, that gives you more offense from your team. We've talked about all portal cycle. You need to go out and you need to add offensive players and get those guys in the boat, and then I guess more or less figure out your starting five later. Just get as many offensive guys as you can. As long as they can play solid defense, Barnes will teach them up, but the offense has to be better. And this guy's an interesting prospect, interesting player. As you mentioned, played all 40 minutes. Well, I guess the game did go into OT, so maybe not all 40 minutes, but played 40 minutes of the UNC game, 34 points. They were down by, 19 in the second half, come all the way back and win. Interesting player because he did not start the season as a starter for them. He was the A-10 sixth man of the year. You look at most of his stats, he played 15 to 23 minutes through most of the season. And then at the end of the season, he starts playing. And the A-10 championship games, the quarterfinals, goes for 20, semifinals 18, final 14. And then in the NCAA tournament, 34 against UNC and 17 against Illinois. So when the competition was the highest and when the games meant the most and his season was on the line, he played his best. So I think that's somebody that you want on your team, someone that's able to step up to the biggest moment. Obviously, UNC, the biggest game of his life, he has the greatest game of his career. So I don't think this guy's a one-hit wonder either. He averaged 15 points per game. Overall, a very solid player that you see the development. I think you like to see guys that have developed over their career. And from his freshman year to his sophomore year, there was a massive jump. And you would hope from his sophomore to his junior year, he can make an even bigger leap because the SEC competition will obviously be tougher than the A10 competition. But this is a guy that can play. This is a true scorer, a really good player, and a guy that you definitely want in your boat to be on your team next season.
A lot of great questions on that YouTube chat. I promise we'll get to those here in a moment, but just have to continue to go down the list of these names. And Terrence Hill Jr., one of them, obviously a guard from VCU, high performer in the tournament, as Garrett talked about. But another player to know about is Jalen Harlison from Notre Dame. He's a 6'7", 220-pound player that averaged 16.2 points, 4 rebounds, and 2.6 assists per game in 27 outings for the Fighting Irish this past season. He shot 51.1% from the floor, but did shoot just 20% from three and 67.4% from the free throw line in 26.6 minutes per game, starting 23 times in his 27 games. Also considering Ohio State and North Carolina. Not a great shooter, but this is a younger player. Was a freshman that dazzled for the Fighting Irish this past season, and at 6'7", a guy that I envision could be in that kind of 6th, 7th man rotation for Tennessee. And another important name to know. I'm told the staff continues to value the possibility of adding Harlison, but again, the portal is very fluid. There are other names and other teams involved here, and it's going to be a process. But again, I think for Tennessee, what you've seen over the last couple of days is that they're continuing to get in the mix for a number of players because you never know where these guys are going to land until they sign the dotted line. So I think that's something they are changing from last year where they were really pinpointing 3 to 4 guys they wanted. It was Rodney Rice. It was Isaac McNeely. Obviously, you were able to land a Jacoby Gillespie, but Elijah Freeman was in that mix too. And those were where Tennessee was really firmly in on, and they weren't really worried about anyone else. They have changed that process this year, going after a number of players, and a Harlison from Notre Dame is an example of that, another guy this staff covets. Let's move to Juke Harris, though, because that's a huge storyline for the Volunteers as well. An in-home visit took place yesterday with the staff and and Harris's representatives. And he's a 6'7" wing who averaged 21.4 points, 6.5 rebounds, and 1.9 assists per game while shooting 44.4% from the field and 33.2% from the free throw line. He was an All-ACC member and the ACC's most improved player of the season last year and considered Tennessee out of high school, but he's also testing those NBA waters. And he's one of the most highly coveted transfers in this class. Michigan hosted him on Saturday for the national championship parade. NC State in the mix for him as well. North Carolina is hovering around too. So 4 teams really to know about here. But Tennessee has valued the relationship with Harris and his family, and that seems to be going a long way at the moment. And that in-home visit with Rick Barnes is pretty important here for this process. So not a guy that I expect any development on in the time being, maybe in the next couple of days as he continues to weigh his options. But Tennessee made up for a lot of lost ground last week as Michigan came on really strong. I can tell you that at least for the time being. But looking at those 2 guys, Harlison from Notre Dame, Harris for Wake Forest, do those guys excite you enough, Brett, to where if you're able to add one of them, you feel better about maybe getting a big ticket item?
I mean, obviously Juke more than Harrelson. Both would be nice pickups. Juke would be obviously the best pickup you've had, and star wise in the portal ever in the Barnes era, I guess. Being the top 5 player in the portal. So yeah, it'd be huge. Obviously, it's great because when we left here on Friday, we just assumed, oh, this seemed like a Michigan done deal since he was visiting and stuff like that. So that's obviously positive momentum, and then getting in him visits positive momentum. So you kind of like where you are, I think, right now. I don't know as much about Harrelson, but Juke Harris would be obviously where you would start and finish in this conversation. But Harrelson, again, would be a nice addition as well. Maybe it's an alternative from, Thomas Dowd, who they both seem like similar players. So, but yeah, Juke Harris would be unbelievable get, and as well as Hill Jr. That'd be a pretty dynamic backcourt right there.
How important is an in-home visit to you, Will, for Juke Harris, trying to kind of make up for a little bit of lost ground last week? Obviously, this is a very fluid process, folks. So, some days you're going to wake up a little bit better than the other. But Michigan came on real strong on Thursday and Friday, obviously hosted him this past weekend. But Tennessee able to land an in-home visit. And the fact that he didn't leave Michigan with a commitment, I think, is key here. But how important was that for Barnes and staff?
Yeah, I think it was massive, right? I mean, if you look at other than Michigan, it looks like he's really trying to stay close to home, being from Salisbury, North Carolina. So all those teams are in the mix, and it shows that we still have a chance, right? I mean, I think it would be great. Obviously, like Brett said, it would be your best portal player you probably ever signed. It's just you were saying it last week. The one thing you got to do is have the guy sign the dotted line. I mean, we've already got 2 so far. I think we're still in the mix, having an at-home visit, and then. And when you go to, I guess, look at Harrelson, too, it would be great to get him on board as well. I mean, coming off the bench, if you have him, Dwayne Brown, and maybe Day-Day Ames, I mean, what more could you ask for coming off the bench there?
A number of players still in the mix for Tennessee. We mentioned Harrelson and Harris. Thomas Dowd out of Troy continues to be on Tennessee's radar, though it does seem at the moment Auburn is the team to watch for and would be considered the favorite. You got Najee Hines out of Seton Hall, another player that is uncommitted at this time, but Tennessee has talked with in the last 7 days. And there are a number of new on-the-radar targets that I will discuss when we return. I got about 6 new names here.
Can I ask you one question real quick about – now, will Juke be like what Chaz did? Like, Chaz did the whole NBA draft and was deciding between – I mean, could Juke theoretically do the same thing?
Theoretically, yes, but I do believe that he is more so seeking, a nice NIL deal and has that NBA waters and the background to kind of add to that. I look at this kind of like a Yaxel Lindenborg situation last year where I believe Lindenborg should have gone to the draft, but he decides to stay in college, and it worked out for him, right? So for Harris, Tennessee is continuing to navigate through this portal process by looking at a number of different players, not just saying, okay, well, Harris is our guy. If we miss on him, we'll just, pivot to someone else later on. A number of players that Tennessee is still looking at all actively until they get a sign name on the dotted line, which is a great process and a change from last year. But at least with Harris, I believe might have to wait a little bit until we get a definite decision of where he decides to go. But when we come back, 6 new names on the radar to talk about, and we'll continue discussing Tennessee and the transfer portal. A lot to unpack on this Monday. Stay right here. It's the Playbook on Fan Run Radio.
For the fans, by the fans, this is Fan Run Radio, Knoxville.
What kind of day is it? It's a White Claw day. Grab a pack, grab your friends. Everything else in life can wait. Your friends shouldn't. Let's go. White Claw. Grab life by the claw. Please drink responsibly. Hard seltzer with flavors. White Claw Seltzer Works, Chicago, Illinois.
Vol fans, reimagine your home at Broadway Carpets and Flooring for any remodeling or building needs. With a variety of carpets, rugs, hardwood, vinyl, and stone, Broadway has all the flooring and installation options you're looking for, including pet-resistant products like Pet Perfect Carpet from Shaw Floors. Visit their showroom in downtown Knoxville or the location in West Knoxville located on Kingston Pike near Pellissippi Parkway today.
A brand built in Tennessee and born from the love of the game, Inward Half revolutionizes golfing comfort. Crafted by a former pro and dedicated enthusiast just like you, our luxury performance wear guarantees you stay cool and comfortable through every swing and every day. We're not just a brand. We've set out to create a lifestyle for those who understand that impeccable style and premium performance are a hole-in-one. Enjoy the walk-in with Inward Half.
Smoky Mountain Brewery is the place to be for game day. From the moment you walk in, it's wall-to-wall big screens, making Smoky Mountain Brewery the perfect place to watch the Vols or your favorite team in action. With locations in Turkey Creek, Maryville, Pigeon Forge, and Gatlinburg, you're never far away from a great time at Smoky Mountain Brewery. Try one of their world-famous microbrews like Black Bear Ale, Mountain Light, or Cherokee Ale. Juicy burgers, wings that bring the heat, and delicious handmade pizzas made with hand-tossed crust from the freshest ingredients and their own special sauce from a secret recipe, topped off with hand-grated cheese and farm-fresh toppings. And don't forget, those famous microbrews are also available in kegs for your next party or in 6-packs and growlers to go. So grab your crew and head to Smoky Mountain Brewery and tell them Fan Run Radio sent you. Smoky Mountain Brewery. Eat local, eat good.
The voluntary reaction.
Can't get enough Tennessee basketball? Join Fan Run Radio as soon as every UT game is over for Big Orange Country's post-game radio free-for-all. The voluntary reaction. We'll be taking your calls on the Vols as soon as every game is over. So tune in and buckle up as we drink from the keg of glory all the way to the Final Four.
The voluntary reaction. Raw, unfiltered, real.
All right, back here on the playbook. We appreciate you hanging out with us on this fine Monday from Knoxville, Tennessee. Still plenty to cover over the next hour and 30 minutes. A little bit of breaking news for the Lady Vols. Another portal addition acquired. Zen Kraft has committed to Tennessee, a Georgia forward who averaged 5.7 points, 4.2 rebounds, and appeared in 27 games for the Lady Bulldogs this past season. And Kim Caldwell makes it 3 out of this portal cycle. So before we get back to Tennessee's men's team in the portal, any thoughts, Brett, on Zen Kraft from Georgia?
Yeah, it's I guess size addition you needed. You've gotten a lot of guards, I think, so far. So this is a nice. Didn't really get to play a lot. Obviously, was a freshman, so you expect her to make a little bit of a jump here in her second season. Obviously, we got the assistant coach from Georgia, so it kind of makes sense that you would at least get her for a visit. Now she's committed. So, we've spent a lot of time talking about the guys, but Kim Caldwell is doing what she had to do. She's made some nice additions, and, she's going to continue to build this team. But the good thing about it is she's building girls with some years left on their eligibility. I think girls are a little different. They don't jump ship after 1 year typically. So having girls in there that, have some years of eligibility left is also a good thing. So, yeah, this will be an interesting addition, and hopefully a girl with some potential to come in and help with the size area of things that you needed.
Yeah, Kraft shot 46.9% from the field this season and becomes the third member of this transfer portal class for the Lady Vols. We talked a lot last week, Brett, and as you mentioned too, the size is big for this team. You've gotten a couple of really nice guards that can score, but didn't really have that size. 6'2" forward. I like to hear that. Just Kim Caldwell continues to add to her class. So we'll continue to talk the Lady Vols on the other side, but want to get back to the men's side of things, and also a number of great comments we'll read off here in a moment and questions as well. But a bunch of new names added to the transfer portal board this weekend, specifically on Saturday, and there are a number of others out there as well, but can't go public with them yet. But the ones we can, Mustafa Thiem from Cincinnati. He's a 7'2" center. That is also looking at St. John's. I think he's scheduled to visit St. John's as well. But that's a new name. Corey Cotton out of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, a guard. A lot of people are going to be excited to hear this one. I've seen so many comments over the last 2 weeks about this cat. Money Williams, a guard from Montana. He played against the Volunteers a season ago, not this past year, but a season prior, and filled up the stat sheet. And I believe that there was a story regarding that where Vol fans helped him out with something. Yeah. I can't remember specifically, but Money Williams officially now added to the transfer portal board. And then you got Kobe Williams out of Montana State. He's another guard. Jacob Walker from Sam Houston. We got a couple of comments about that last week. He's now officially on that portal board too. He's from Memphis, Tennessee. And then you got Johan Munch out of Oregon State. He is a forward. I think 6'11", the size there would be more of a kind of a backup piece. But those are 6 new names to know about that we'll throw out there. Multiple other players on the radar as well. But again, until it's public domain, can't share those. But a couple of interesting ones. I think Mustafa Thiem out of Cincinnati is the most interesting here because, yes, you do add Miles Rubin out of Loyola Chicago at 6'10", but he could play the 4 if you did wind up adding a Thiem at 7'2", and that would be a guy very similar to a Felix Akpara, just a lanky, big shot blocker and rebounder. But again, a very competitive process for Thiem's talents. Has a number of other power forward teams looking at him. St. John's set to visit him, but a couple of new names there that I did want to share. So when we look at the complete list now, obviously there's the Preston Edmeade from Hofstra, Matt Mauble from JUCO, Emmett Adair from Loyola Maryland. Those guys are still on the list. I think the only new addition to the negative side of things was Isaiah Johnson, a Colorado guard. He announced his commitment to Texas over the weekend. That was one of those names we could not share, but Tennessee was in the process of trying to land him early on in the portal cycle, ends up going to the Longhorns, so Tennessee will match up against him next year. But him and Bryson Tiller out of Kansas are the only 2 guys I've got confirmed in the shine better elsewhere category. But out of these on the radar guys that we added today, which one piques your interest the most, Garrett?
Yeah, I mean, I think Thiem, just because of the size, obviously, highly coveted guy, as you talked about. But I think Money Williams, obviously, an interesting prospect, too. Played here fall of 24 in a game, had a lot of points, as you said, filled up the stat sheet. Tennessee fans talked about him a lot when that happened. Obviously, averages 20 points per game this past year at Montana. Has averaged double digits all of his 3 seasons in college, 13 points his freshman year, 13 points his sophomore year, and then 20 points this season. So I think that's another guy, whether he comes off the bench or he fills into a starting position, if you were to land him, just gives you a lot of, options to score. And that's, again, goes back to what we've been talking about. You need scorers, and you're looking to have some replacements down low. So Thiem would be, a replacement down low, and then Money Williams would also just be a guy that can, again, help fill up your stat sheet, whether that's, most likely coming off the bench, however it would be, just more points and points and points, and that's what you want.
Will, what about you? Out of these on-the-radar guys, maybe not the top priority for Tennessee at the moment, but a number of guys that could come in and fill a role. Who do you envision being a big impact if they were to land at Tennessee?
Yeah, I look at either Money Williams or Corey Cotton. I mean, Money Williams, like Garrett's just talking about, it's a pure scorer, right? Combined, he had 91 points in their conference tournament. I mean, he could be a real big spark off the bench. And then I like Corey Cotton just because he kind of seems like a similar play style to Bishop Boswell, right? Great 3-and-D defender, and then he can hit his 3-point shots, and then also he can hit his free throws. Obviously, he wouldn't be starting the 2 spot like Bishop Boswell was, but I think either guy would be great and play the role really efficiently off the bench in Rick Barnes' system.
And Brett, to you, anyone that sticks out of this new list of 6 added names?
I've got to go Money Williams. The name speaks for itself, and the dude just seems like a really good dude, and I feel like he'd fit really well here. Obviously, he can score the basketball, and as I've said multiple times, you can't have enough scoring out there. We've really lacked that area over the last few years of having multiple guys that can go get you a bucket, and the more guys you put on this roster that can go and do it, I'm all for it. I think I lean Money Williams, and maybe we're looking too guard heavy right now with some of these names you mentioned, but I don't think you can run too many guards out there at one time.
All right, so to recap the portal board before we answer some of these questions here in the chat, your commits, you've got 3 of them. Tyler Lundblade out of Belmont. He's a guard, a sharpshooter. Miles Rubin, a center out of Loyola Chicago, 237 career blocks. Day Ames out of California was in the 91st percentile in usage rate this past season, averaged 17 a night. Your visitors currently scheduled, Terrence Hill Jr. out of Virginia Commonwealth, had 15 points a game this past season for the Rams and put up 34 in that round of 64 matchup against North Carolina. The priority targets, Jalen Harlison out of Notre Dame, 16.2 points a night, shot 51.1% from the floor. He's a 6'7", 220-pound wing. Juke Harris, the in-home visit this past week, I guess on Sunday specifically, but he's a guy that everyone knows about, testing those NBA waters, averaged 21.4 points, and was the ACC's most improved player this past year. Thomas Dowd out of Troy, Tennessee and Auburn, right now going back and forth, but I'd consider the Tigers the favorite. Najee Hines out of Seton Hall, Tennessee met with him last week, but another player that has a competitive market. Those on-the-radar targets, Mustafa Thiem, a center from Cincinnati, guard Corey Cotton from Texas Rio Grande Valley, guard Money Williams from Montana, guard Kobe Williams from Montana State. I don't believe they have any relation as well, just anyone asking. Missouri State. Excuse me, Missouri State. I guess too many Montanas there. Jacob Walker from Sam Houston, Johan Munch from Oregon State, a center. And then the guys we've already covered throughout the last couple of days, Preston Edmeade, a guard from Hofstra, guard Joel Foxwell from Portland, forward Emmett Adair from Loyola, Maryland, and Matt Mobile from JUCO's South Georgia Technical College. So those are the names right now we've got. A couple of more out there that aren't public yet, but hopefully can get those cleared here in the coming days. But that's the full portal rundown. All right, let's look at a couple of these chats because we've got a number of them today. Jalen Carey put out earlier, 7 p.m. exclamation mark on Twitter. People are saying, is he coming back? What would his decision be? At least from my understanding, I don't believe it's going to be a return. But I don't want to speculate or say it's definitively not going to be this or it's going to be that. But to my understanding, I don't believe he is coming back. But that would be a development worth noting if he decided to return. I would look at, an NC State as a possible team that could land him. I think Bishop Boswell is going to end up choosing the Wolfpack as well. But I don't want to speculate on what that 7 p.m. announcement could be. But I don't personally believe at this time that it's going to be him announcing a return. Buck says, which of these signees are an upgrade from last year's team? I think Day-Day Ames, if he does end up being your sixth man, is a significant upgrade in terms of point production of what he can do immediately off the bench. He's a pure scorer, high usage rate. Guy can go get a bucket at 3 levels. And if that's a guy coming off your bench like a Duke Miles was for Vanderbilt, I think that's a big plus. Herbert Horton, I think this is him being funny, but I will read this. Drove by Pratt this morning at 6 a.m., and you could see Coach Barnes working with Ruben on free throws, not wasting any time. I hope that's true because he did shoot just 54% from the free throw line last year, but I think that's a little, trying to be funny. But I do like the comment nonetheless. Let's see. Any comments on Jalen Carey? Yeah, again, don't know about that.
Just doing a quick search. Miami has been in contact with him. So
Jalen Carey?
Yeah. I mean, his dad or something was.
Yeah, his dad played for Miami. Played for the Dolphins.
Yeah.
His brother.
That was from a couple days ago, so I don't know if that's still the case, but that's what I found when I did a quick search.
Let's see. Landon Kelly asking about Terrence Hill Jr. If he were to sign, what does that do with Juke? Terrence Hill Jr. would be a point guard. In my eyes, a Juke would be separate, and he would still be considered your most highly coveted guy at the moment in terms of the recruiting process. Tennessee, to my understanding, doing everything they can to try and land him, but I would not expect an announcement, anytime relatively soon. But if he were to be added, I think Hill would be your starting point guard, and then Juke Harris would be your starting 2 or 3, just depending on where they put him. Would we take another look at Elijah Freeman or Alvaro Fulgaris? I know Tennessee was on them in the portal last season. A good question. Fulgaris was a guy that Tennessee was on out of Robert Morris last offseason. Elijah Freeman from Lincoln Memorial was a guy that Tennessee was all over initially, ends up going to Auburn, just a higher offer. But I don't have a confirmation on either of those two. There was some talk if Freeman were to have entered the portal that Tennessee could get involved there, but at this point in time, I don't believe that Tennessee's going to go back down that route, but things could obviously change. Juke Harris is a talent. Will he fit in the culture that Coach Barnes has developed at Tennessee? Don't be surprised if they take another look at Freeman. Coach Barnes works on that Tennessee Connect. I think Juke Harris is a guy that, Tennessee was on him out of high school, so they already know him from that. They formed that relationship over time, and relationships are really big, folks. I know the dollar signs and the bags are a big deal as well, but forming those relationships are important. Tennessee is one of the stronger ones in this recruiting process for him, dating back to his time at high school. And I don't think he's going to be a concern in terms of a locker room fit or a culture fit. If Rick Barnes is going after him, that's not a concern for him. Jeremiah Wilkinson was a guy out of Georgia that, Tennessee had a connection with because Omaro Morgan coached him at Cal, but he was kind of wiped off the board because he wasn't really considered a culture fit. So, Rick Barnes and this staff are selective in who they're going after. They're not just adding guys because they're good. They're adding guys because they're good fits for what Tennessee is trying to do. Let's see. Do you think any of our current portal guys are going to come off the bench? I think Day-Day Ames, if everything goes to plan and you're able to land like a Terrence Hill Jr. or another starting level guard, you get a Juke Harris, and I know this is, kind of a pipe dream a little bit at the time, but if Tennessee is able to get everyone they want on mostly everyone they want, I imagine Ames will be your sixth man. That's the way I look at it at the moment. I still think Lundblade would be your starting three. But again, you got to go through the process of who you're adding. And I think the vision right now is a point guard, a true point guard, Juke Harris, Tyler Lundblade, your four. Maybe that's a Nate Ament, maybe that's a Miles Rubin, or maybe you move some of those guys down the list to where you add another secondary guard. Maybe Ames could start at the two if you don't have a solidified four. But if everything goes to plan, I'd say Ames would be a sixth man, a guy off the bench. So to answer your question, I think Ames would be the only guy I look at the moment. Last day of the portal. So the portal is open for 15 days after last Tuesday when it officially opened. So you've got 15 days until that. So I guess at this point, you've got, 9 days left?
9 days, yeah.
Yeah, 9 days, 8 or 9 days left. Landon Kelly, what if Nate Ament comes back? What does that do? Well, that means you've got a starting four returning, and that would change a lot of things because even if you're able to add a Juke Harris or a Terrence Hill Jr. and you're able to snag an Ament too, that changes where you're headed for sure, the season outlook. But again, Ament's going through that decision process now with his family, his agent. Not going to have an answer on that, at least for the time being. But if Ament were to return, obviously that changes a lot in terms of Tennessee's outlook. But in terms of starting lineup, I think it'd be your four. All right, up against a break. When we come back, we'll continue to discuss the transfer portal. Then in hour number 2, we'll talk about Tennessee baseball, the orange and white game, and the Lady Vols in the portal as well. Stay right here, the playbook on Fan Run Radio.
Catch up with all things Fan Run by subscribing to our podcast feed. Like, rate, and download the show from the Fan Run app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jacob Wilco at Knoxville Smiles. Have you ever wanted to improve the look of your smile? We know firsthand what the power of a great smile means to a person's confidence and health. Our team of doctors can provide you with an array of options for helping you achieve your cosmetic goals. From simply moving teeth into a better position, to reversible cosmetic bonding, to full mouth implant-supported dentures. It is our goal to help patients feel good about their appearance while achieving optimal health. Want to learn more? Call us at 865-539-1776 to schedule an evaluation or visit us online at knoxvillesmiles.com.
Hi, this is Bo Kregner from the Kregner Group of Realty Executives, and I know there's a lot of choices here in East Tennessee when it comes to choosing a realtor. Here's why the Kregner Group is different. At the Kregner Group, our motto is walking by faith, serving others. It's how I live my life. It's how I run my business. Here at the Kregner Group, we're committed to doing real estate the right way. Faith, honesty, integrity. The Kregner Group. Call me anytime at 865-742-1035 or visit my website at bonoshouses.com.
Welcome to Axle Logistics, where excellence isn't just a goal, it's an energy. As a leading third-party logistics company, Axle is powered by an award-winning culture built on a work hard, play hard mentality. Here, the drive for success is contagious and hard work never goes unnoticed. Whether you're just starting out or looking to level up, Axle Logistics is the place to launch your career. Join us and take your ambition to the stars. To learn more, visit axlelogistics.com.
All right, before we head to hour number 2, we'll head to the phones where we got Roberto on the line. What's up, Roberto?
What's up, guys? Good afternoon.
How are you?
Well, a little depressed, a little sports depressed. Masters was cool. What a great weekend. It really put the game on display for everybody and what it really means. And as a person who I genuinely love golf, and sadly I sustained an injury a decade ago, and I really can't play anymore. And it's every time I watch it, it's all I want to do is play. And I know that if I do that, I get to not walk for a long time.
Yeah.
So, it was just a great weekend for golf, and coming off the national championship and the the tournament and all that. And it was kind of a downer of a weekend a downer of a Monday morning when you realize how great it was. Because also, the baseballs, which obviously I know you guys hadn't sent up the Burt signal yet, but I was going to call in and talk about it anyways. What happened? They look like a completely different team, guys.
They got their mojo back.
It's funny. Well, Elander does have some fire about him. I've seen it, so I know it's there. But he's always going to be stoic, and I wonder. I'll hold this up to you guys. If they didn't find some dudes with some juice finally, and I can't believe I'm going to say it, I feel like Appenzeller, a freshman, is setting the tone for the juice of the team.
Yeah, he is.
And Grindlinger, another freshman, juice guy. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe they've captured lightning in a bottle finally, and it just took them a while to figure out that it wasn't the upperclassmen. And I think Reese Chapman is a great captain. I do. I think he does things the right way, and that's the kind of guys you want to be your captain. But he is much more like Elander and a whole lot less like I was going to say a Drew Beam or an Andrew Fisher,
sure,
somebody like that. You know. So, what are your thoughts on the way we pitched this weekend versus the way we've pitched in other weekends? Because I want to see what you guys really think about that.
Yeah, and
were we better? Were we equal? Were we worse?
Yeah, well, we'll answer up against the break, so we're going to have to cut you off at that, but we appreciate you calling in, but we will answer this. I think I'll let it to you guys as well, but I just thought that Tennessee did a better job of, just executing your rotations. I thought Appenzeller came in, obviously was fantastic, but even a guy like Rudy, came in and was strong. So I think just this whole weekend, something about Stark Vegas, something about Starkville, where Tennessee is able to flip a switch and now win their 11th straight game against the Bulldogs. We'll talk more about the baseball team and the pitching effort here in a moment, in hour 2. But in short, I just thought they executed better and were more timely. They were timely with their hitting. They were timely with the rotations of pulling a guy out and getting a new arm in. I just thought the game management was much better this weekend. And in short, that's what I believe was the big difference. But we'll talk more about it on the other side. Appreciate the call from Roberto. Hour 2 on the way. Tennessee sweeps Mississippi State, the orange and white game, notes, and also plenty more transfer portal talk. Stay right here. It's the Playbook on Fan Run Radio.
Follow us on Twitter or X or whatever they're calling it these days at Fox Sports Knox, Fox Sports Knoxville, Fan Run Radio.
Blackford Veterinary Surgery Referral specializes in surgeries not regularly performed by your pet's general veterinarian. They're currently accepting referrals from vets all across the country. With their newly renovated state-of-the-art surgery center and highly trained staff, clients can rely on professional and thorough care. If your vet says that your pet needs surgery or rehab, ask for a referral to Blackford Vet and let them get your best friend back on its feet. Located conveniently in West Knoxville. For more information, visit blackfordvetsurgery.com. At Knoxville Insurance Group, they understand the challenges many consumers face when searching for insurance coverage. That's why whether it's for you, your family, or your business, they create a coverage plan specifically for your unique needs. Knoxville Insurance Group is an independent firm, which means they aren't beholden to just one insurance company. They search multiple companies, acting as your negotiator to find you the best possible policy and price. Start a quote in minutes at KnoxvilleInsuranceGroup.com or call them today at 865-694-9788.
Snakes, zombies, sharks, heights, speaking in public. The list of fears is endless. But while you're clutching your blanket in the dark, wondering if that sound in the hall was actually a footstep, the real danger is in your hand, when you're behind the wheel. And while you might think a great white shark is scary, what's really terrifying and even deadly is distracted driving. Eyes forward, don't drive distracted. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
At Knoxville Insurance Group, they understand the challenges many consumers face when searching for insurance coverage. That's why whether it's for you, your family, or your business, they create a coverage plan specifically for your unique needs. Knoxville Insurance Group is an independent firm, which means they aren't beholden to just one insurance company. They search multiple companies, acting as your negotiator to find you the best possible policy and price. Start a quote in minutes at KnoxvilleInsuranceGroup.com or call them today at 865-694-9788.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. Go ahead, feel your engine. Admire that perfectly installed exhaust. Your vehicle's moving along this freeway like it was made from fresh installs and a whole lot of love. With eBay Motors, you get over 122 million parts to keep it running. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Running a business, coaching a team, planning your next big event, you need more than just gear. You need SM Athletics and Logo Solutions. Custom uniforms, branded apparel, promotional products, done right, done fast, and built to show off your brand with pride. From local businesses to high schools to major universities, SM Athletics is trusted by winners. Get real service, get real quality, get noticed. SM Athletics and Logo Solutions, where your brand comes to life.
Visit smathletics.com and let's build something great together.
You're listening to FM 105.7 and AM 1340, WKGN Knoxville, and W289CU Knoxville, Fan Run Radio. Fan Run Radio, where Big Orange Country comes to talk sports. Start your morning off with your daily dose of talk sports with John Reed and Cody McClure from 8 to 11. Then it's Tony Basilio from 11 to 1. The Playbook with William Pattison from 1 to 3. And The Drive from 3 to 6. It's 10 hours of hard-hitting local sports radio every day, right here on the flagship station for Tennessee fans. This is Fan Run Radio, Knoxville.
Blackford Veterinary Surgery Referral specializes in surgeries not regularly performed by your pet's general veterinarian. They're currently accepting referrals from vets all across the country. With their newly renovated state-of-the-art surgery center and highly trained staff, clients can rely on professional and thorough care. If your vet says that your pet needs surgery or rehab, ask for a referral to Blackford Vet and let them get your best friend back on its feet. Located conveniently in West Knoxville. For more information, visit blackfordvetsurgery.com.
Here we go. Hour number 2 on a Monday, live from the White Claw Hard Seltzer Studios. It's the Playbook on Fan Run Radio. Brett Hullander, Will Palumbo, and Garrett Armbrust joining you. I'm William Pattison. Great stuff. And hour number 1, we'll continue it here in hour number 2 as we dive into Tennessee baseball this past weekend in Starkville, getting a clean sweep on the Bulldogs. We'll also discuss the action from the orange and white game over the weekend as well. Kind of a glorified practice or scrimmage, but still plenty to discuss there. And also continue the conversations in the transfer portal for both the men's and women's basketball teams. But right before we headed to hour 2, Roberto called in talking about the base Vols, and, well, we're going to talk about them because they seem to have found their mojo and maybe have hit their stride at an important part in the season. Over the last couple of weeks, it's been a lot of frustration and an inability to finish games, but Tennessee found a way to finish all 3 games this weekend in Starkville and got wins in all of them. So we'll pivot to the Diamond as Tennessee completed the sweep of number 8 Mississippi State with another well-rounded effort on Sunday afternoon, quieting the Bulldogs 7-2 at Duty Noble Field, and the Volunteers now improved to 24-12 and 7-8 in SEC play. They extended their current winning streak to 11 games against Mississippi State and swept the Bulldogs, dropping them to 26-10 and 7-8 in SEC play for the second consecutive time in Starkville, which also marks the first time in program history Tennessee has recorded 2 straight road series wins against State. And you talk about had to have it. Man, Tennessee had to have this one, and they did so with flying covers with a sweep. Garrett, beginning with you, the takeaways from this weekend series between the Vols and Bulldogs.
Yeah, you did pretty much everything better than you have the last couple of weeks. Starting pitching was really good in every outing. Appenzeller came in after Mack pitched and closed it down for you game 1. And then you got, game 2 was a solid outing. And then game 3, you used your most relief pitchers. And I thought that was good management out of Elander. You had Blanco pitch well. Then you had Frederick come in for a minute. And then Day came in for a minute. And then you had Rudy came in and closed it out. So you kind of had, the Elander has been kind of criticized for the way he's managed the bullpen, but I thought he did good in that game. You kind of, when you saw maybe something not going so well, he was quick to move him out and move into the next guy. And Appenzeller, obviously, you saw game 1. He's one of the best relief pitchers in all of the country. 1.62 ERA, I think, on 36 innings pitched as a true freshman. You get this guy here for 3 years. So as y'all said earlier before, we went to break, I think he's giving kind of the mojo to this team. He plays with excitement, and him and Mack both do that. And that's what you want to see out of your team. Your hitting was a lot better this weekend, too. Abernathy had a really solid weekend. Garrett Wright was solid. Henry Ford had some good moments. Just a lot of good quality hitting. You had insurance runs, which was something in the LSU series you couldn't do. You blew the first game, and then the final game of the series after Brown hits that grand slam, you don't score again until extras. This game, in the final game, you scored early, and then you were able to get some insurance runs there in the 9th. And I think that it's a big turning point for this team. Obviously, came into this week 4-8 in SEC play. You leave 7-8. You go from 14th in SEC standings all the way up to 9th. And if you win a series this weekend against Ole Miss, you're probably a top 25 team in the country again. So this team is hopefully turned the page. You get 2 straight home series against Ole Miss and Alabama coming up. And as I've said it before, this team in 2023 was 5-10 and went all the way to Omaha. Ole Miss, the year they won the World Series, they were very horrible to start conference play. 2024 LSU was like 4-8 to start conference play and played us in the SEC championship game. So baseball's how you finish the season, not really how you start. And hopefully this is the start of the peak, and you can play well through April and May and into June.
Well, your takeaways from the Stark Vegas sweep for the Volunteers.
Yeah, it was a pitching masterclass is how I would phrase it. I mean, it's pretty great to do. You really had to have it this weekend, and you got it, right? To repeat what you did last year in Starkville is great to see. And then, I mean, just the hitting also really saved you. I mean, good to see guys like Abernathy and Marin have good Saturdays, which is pretty surprising. And then Garrett Wright played pretty well in the leadoff spot all weekend. So just great all around. And like Garrett mentioned, love to see Elander kind of make more confident decisions, and they actually worked out for him. So just good to see us kind of turning the corner.
And Brett, to you, your thoughts on Tennessee's efforts in Starkville?
Well, egg on my face because I said we were going to – if I didn't say we were going to get swept, I know I said we were going to lose the series. So this was a pleasant surprise. Obviously, you put it all together. You got some timely hitting. You played clean baseball. I think you only walked 2 batters the whole weekend. I think you only had 1 error. which is crazy for us because that's been our Achilles heel, is giving free runs away or giving free passes and leads to big innings. Your defense was spot on, making big plays as well. And this is about as perfect as the series you get. Still not getting much from Blaine Brown. I think he only hit 182 on the weekend, and Grimmer didn't have a great day at the plate either. I think he had 1 RBI on the series, but that's why they called a team game, and you got some big contributions from the whole lineup. And this first time I think you've played a series where you kept the same 9. They might have been different positions on the weekend, but the whole everybody stayed the same. So that was nice to see. And the pitching was spot on and things like that. So it was a huge, to get the sweep was just huge. And I think we're all happy for Elander because he's been getting a lot of blame going around and things like that when I don't know if he deserved it. I think the guys weren't performing. He was giving every guy an opportunity to pitch or hit, and nobody was coming through. And it was nice to see him get rewarded with a big series win. And you've got a big one this weekend, so hopefully you can just have this all continue. So happy to see it for the boys.
Well, let's talk about that effort on the mound. It was magnificent this weekend for the Vols, and Tennessee received another outstanding pitching performance from starter Evan Blanco on Sunday, who retired the first 9 batters he faced with 5 strikeouts for the first time through the order before giving up a leadoff single in the bottom of the 4th. The senior lefty finished with 6 strikeouts and allowed just 2 runs on 5 hits over 6 2/3 innings to earn the win and improve to 3-2 on the year. And as Garrett touched on, Bo Rudy came in. He was nails out of the bullpen, recording the final 2 outs in the 8th before retiring the side in order in the 9th to slam the door for the second save of the season. And on Saturday, it was a lot of the same. Tegan Coons, who was fantastic in 6 innings of work, allowing just 2 runs on 4 hits while striking out an SEC career best 7 batters to earn his second win of the year. And after a leadoff home run from Garrick Frey in the bottom of the 7th, Coons handed the ball off to Arvidsson, who pitched 3 scoreless innings to slam the door on the Bulldogs and record his first save of the season. And earlier when Roberto called in asking about what changed, I mentioned, the timeliness and the game management. Right there, a prime example. You let off a home run, you make an adjustment, Arvidsson comes in and closes the door. And Friday, it was Cam Zappenzeller, whatever you want to call him. Zap is the way I've been referring to him, but Cam Appenzeller was great. He was nails once again, provided the Big Orange with an outstanding relief performance, earning the win to improve to 5-0 on the year after pitching the final 5 innings and striking out a career-best 8 batters in the process, including back-to-back punch-outs of Andrew Raymond and Aiden Teal to end the game, following a homer by Reed Stallman that pulled the Bulldogs within 1 run in the 9th. And I will say on Friday watching the game, I was like, here we go again. It started to kind of get into that territory, but Cam Appenzeller, Zappenzeller, the rest of the group, and were able to come out with the win. The freshman left-hander did have his streak of scoreless innings in SEC play come to an end this weekend when Noah Sullivan singled to left field with 1 out in the 8th inning. But Appenzeller started conference play with 21 2/3 shutout innings before surrendering his first run. And again, that's an attribute to how good of a freshman this kid has been. Landon Mack gave the Vols another solid starting effort, too. He racked up 6 strikeouts over 4 innings before handing the ball off to Appenzeller. And for the weekend, the Vols walked 2 and hit 1 batter in 27 innings. And the reason why that 1 batter hit is important is because Tennessee struggled in that facet throughout the year as well. But they struck out 32 and allowed 9 runs on 32 hits for the weekend, or 23 hits for the weekend. But the leading 5-man portion of the pitching staff has been the strength of this team throughout the year and was once again this weekend. Appenzeller, Mack, Blanco, Coons, Arvidsson, all 5 of those guys were imperative for Tennessee to come out with a win and a series sweep, and that's exactly what occurred. What did you make of the effort on the mound this weekend, Garrett?
It was really good. Obviously, your bullpen has been, outside of Appenzeller this season, not very good. And you saw guys like Arvidsson and Rudy and guys like that pitch much better this weekend. Now, obviously, the starting pitching was what won you these games, in my opinion, still, because you had starting pitching that went pretty deep into the game. It wasn't like you had your starter chased within 3 or 4 innings or anything. So, obviously, though, the bullpen did their job, which has been something, like I said, has been bad. Obviously, Game 3 of the LSU series, your bullpen imploded. Game 1 of the LSU series, your bullpen imploded. Game 3 of the Vanderbilt series, your bullpen imploded. So you didn't have to go too deep into it. You kind of just went for the guys that you've used that you felt kind of comfortable with. Frederick has had some good moments this season. Arvidsson has had some good moments this season. Rudy's obviously had some good moments this season. So I think this bullpen, if you don't have to go too deep into it, is still a decent enough bullpen to win you games as long as your starters can give you 5 to 6 innings. But your starters obviously aren't going to be able to do that every single game. So you just hope that coming into Ole Miss this weekend, as much of anything, hopefully the momentum just switched for your bullpen, because I think a lot of these guys had a monkey on their back of they'd come in and they pitched 1 or 2 pitches, and whether that was Krenzel hitting a guy in the LSU series and immediately being pulled, or Frederick in the LSU series giving up a home run and immediately being pulled. Like, hopefully these guys just have a better taste in their mouth after this series, because a lot of the time in baseball, one win can shift your series or shift how you feel. One series can shift how you feel. So hopefully that's just how it is with the bullpen, because I feel like the bullpen really has the talent. Like, Frederick is a very solid pitcher. He was the SoCon pitcher of the year. You get him. Arvidsson obviously was tremendous in the postseason last year. It's not like these guys don't know how to pitch. They're very good pitchers. They just got off the bad starts this season. So hopefully this is the turning point.
And we'll talk about that possible turning point here in a little bit. Josh Elander echoed it after the game on Sunday. But back to you, Will, talking about this effort on the mound, one of the best performances of the season for Tennessee on the mound. And as a result, you get one of your best results of the weekend in a sweep in Starkville. What'd you make of Tennessee and their pitching effort?
Yeah, so I called it a masterclass earlier, right? I think everybody did their job exceptionally well and all brought their A game. Kind of earlier in the year, you really expected all 3 to always bring their A game. It was usually one would kind of have an off day, but then no starter had an off day, and your bullpen really came through clutch as well. And I think Elander's really figured it out, playing either Mack or Coons a couple innings, then bringing on Appenzeller to kind of almost as that 4th starter to kind of just seal the deal. And I think everybody, like Garrett said, if you don't have to go too deep into it, I think we still look really exceptionally well. And then the bullpen did their job as well. I mean, there wasn't any slip-ups, I would say, that we've had recently. And, I mean, just really, really great to see everybody pulling their weight.
One of the things we've discussed over the last couple of weeks, Brett, has been, some possible tweaks in that pitching rotation. Cam Appenzeller, a guy that's going to be a highly regarded pick in the MLB draft here in the future and is going to have a bright career at the major league level. But at least for the time being, he's one of your most consistent guys out of the bullpen. But some have argued you should start him. Probably not going to make a change after the results from this weekend. But do you feel like anything should change, or was there anything that might point towards somewhere down the road of Appenzeller maybe being a starter?
No, I mean, I think his role is solidified. I mean, he's basically pitching, starting pitching numbers this season. So whether he starts or not, I think he's found his role, and his role changed a little bit this weekend. He was a Friday night guy. I think Elander knew the importance of that first game. You needed the win, and he went to his best arm. And I like these 3 guys, and I like having the thought of Appenzeller supporting those guys. That should give you more confidence that, hey, if I go out here, do my job, that, I'm going to be protected on the back end with Arvidsson. And we have a nice little setup right now. If they can continue to pitch like that. Mississippi State's one of the best offenses in the league, and you went down and you completely shut them out. And, and you, like you said, you got the timely hitting as well. You haven't been getting that. So there was a lot more support for these starters. If you can go out and score runs, you're going to win some baseball games because you have really good starting pitching. And, that was about the perfect recipe this weekend that you could ask for. And, I just, you just hope it continues. But, I'm not touching Appenzeller unless if there's an absolute must to do it. I think his role is pretty set. I mean, like Garrett said, maybe if you get a regional or something like that, you need to go to him, must-win situation. Maybe that changes it. But, I think I would keep him in this role right now.
I think the biggest argument I could make towards those that say, well, you should start Appenzeller if he's one of your best guys is, well, what does Tennessee struggle with throughout the season? Well, it's been finishing games. So if you've got a guy and, Coons or Mack or Blanco, whoever it may be, that can get you off to a good start, and all of them can do that, then why not finish it out with a guy that could be a starter? That's a card up Tennessee's sleeve that not a lot of other teams can have. So an example of that this weekend, you needed to find a way to win on Friday. It got a little too close for comfort later on in the game, but you find a way to close the door, get a big win to begin the series. And if you lose that game, who knows where that series goes? You could have been swept again, because the morale and the momentum for a team right now that is kind of fragile in that aspect, that could have played a big role. But you play Appenzeller in the final, 4 to 5 innings, and you close the door on a win, and that then rides into a Saturday win, a Sunday win, and now you got a 9-game homestand here in Knoxville. So a huge win this weekend for Tennessee to sweep the series, get that momentum, and the pitching staff a big reason why. But another big reason, timely hitting. I thought there was some really timely hitting this weekend. The Vols scored 3 8-inning runs Friday, including 2 with 2 outs. They took a 4-0 lead Saturday thanks to 3 second-inning runs with elite execution offensively. And then Sunday was the best example of it yet. Tennessee scored 3 ninth-inning runs with 2 outs to extend its lead from 4-2 to 7-2 to really make things difficult for the Bulldogs to come back at home. And that's kind of what other teams have done to Tennessee. They've come up in a 9th-inning scenario and been able to put multiple runs on the board. Tennessee this time got ahead of it and was able to build a 5-run lead in the bottom of the 9th inning to come out with a win. So I thought timely hitting was very important as well. A combination of two things Tennessee has struggled with, finishing games and timely hitting. Both of them were excelled this weekend by this group. How important were the Vols' efforts at the plate and specifically that timely hitting, Garrett?
Yeah, very important. I mean, as I said earlier, the insurance runs were massive in these games. Obviously, yesterday you got some runs late and extended your lead from 4-2 to 7-2. And that just gives more confidence to your bullpen, really. I mean, when you come in and you're a bullpen pitcher and the lead is 1 run or tied, you have to be so much more just perfect. When you have a 5-run lead coming in, that just gives you a little bit more. I mean, obviously you still don't want to give up runs, but at least in the back of your mind, you have a little bit more freedom where if you make a mistake on a pitch and give up a home run, it's not the end of the world. So I think it just gives your bullpen more freedom, frees up your guys. I think that might have been part of a reason why you saw the bullpen be so good this weekend was, you felt like the hitters had your back. And I think when the whole team feels like they can, trust each other, and the offense feels like they can trust the pitching, and the pitching feels like they can trust the offense to put up runs, that's when baseball teams are going to play at their best. And that's what you got this weekend. And you just got to continue that momentum, because a lot of these blown leads have been because as much as the bullpen has sucked in some of these games, you haven't scored runs, and you've put your bullpen in not great situations late in the game. So I think just the insurance runs there late in the game is massive and something that you got to continue to do if you want to be a further development this league later in the season.
Multiple examples of timely hitting on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for this Tennessee team to be able to close the door and sweep the Bulldogs. Will, to you, how important were those efforts at the plate for Tennessee?
Yeah, they were massive, right? I mean, you mentioned the 3 runs at the top of the 8th on Friday. That really got us going. I think that just probably fired up Appenzeller even more. We've talked about the juice and the mojo that he has, but now he kind of knew that it was on him to close the game out, and I'm sure he had all the confidence in the world that he wasn't going to let up 3 runs after the start he had. And then on Saturday, too, I mean, everybody to have Abernathy, Marin, and Grinlinger all get 3 hits. I mean, that's probably hasn't happened all season yet. And then Blaine Brown on Sunday really coming through at the end. I mean, it just kind of everybody got involved. Levi Clark, too, Manny Marin, just really good insurance runs at the top of the 9th. I think that, like Garrett said, it gave our bullpen a lot more confidence that they can go out there and do their job, and just because the hitting definitely had their back this weekend.
And then Brett, taking a look at what Coach Elander had to say after the game. Pretty good stuff here. When asked about the series win, the series sweep, he said, quote, "It was massive, a turning point. It needs to be a mojo change for our guys to know wherever we go play in this league, we've got a chance to be in the game." Is this a turning point for Tennessee as you now have a 9-game homestand. You start things on Tuesday hosting UNC Asheville. You've got the Rebels of Ole Miss coming to town after a gritty series they had this past weekend with LSU. A lot of fireworks went down in the outfield as well. I don't know if you guys saw that online, but regardless, anytime you play in the SEC, you're going up against a good opponent. A ton of parity in this conference right now in baseball. Is this a turning point for Tennessee after a big weekend like that?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, a lot of people are counting us out. I mean, after some of these tough losses. I mean, Garrett's been saying it this whole time. You know, we've been close. You just haven't got over that hurdle. So it was nice to put it all together, like I said. And Elander's right. I mean, this puts you right back on the map and gets you some positive momentum when you need it the most. And it's got to give you a ton of confidence coming back home for all these games where, you need to put a good showing out, though. I mean, you've struggled at home in SEC play. So you need to go out and support the team and, take it one game at a time. But you got to be having a lot of confidence, and you're doing this with some of your better hitters not completely there yet. So I'm confident they're going to get the job done, and I think we all should be. So I'm happy for Tennessee, and let's keep it moving.
Well, Tennessee gets a sweep. Tennessee softball has the opportunity to do so tonight against Kentucky. They took the first 2 games, and they play later on tonight against the Wildcats. They could go for a 3-0 total themselves. So good weekend for Tennessee baseball and softball, even though the Lady Vols have a little bit of work left to do in today's matchup. A rare Monday night matchup. So you got Saturday, Sunday, Monday for the Lady Vols softball series, but they'll wrap things up with Kentucky tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time on the SEC Network. When we come back, we'll flip over to the gridiron. The orange and white practice was this weekend. And I say practice because that's what it was. But we'll break down a couple of the tidbits and notes from it and also continue to discuss the transfer portal for the men's basketball team. A couple of comments revolving around a guy that's not in the portal yet. I'll talk about that when we return as well. Stay right here. It's the Playbook on Fan Run Radio.
For the fans, by the fans. This is Fan Run Radio. Knoxville.
Are you ready for the start of a new season? Maybe looking for your team to go on a tournament run? Get game day ready with Crumble. Head on over to your nearest location and pick up 12 pre-selected cookies plus exclusive toppers. When you're looking for dessert options, there's no question about who you should call on. Our listeners already know. Last year, the Dubai chocolate was a home run, along with the brownie batter. Oreo crumb was another crowd favorite. What new flavor will set the standard this season? If you're in the Knoxville area, there are 3 locations ready to serve you: Clinton Highway, Parkside Drive, and Maryville. Download the Crumble app to build your best lineup and vote on the best combos. You can even put your bid in to request a new flavor. Order in the app and slide on over to your nearest location. Tell them Fan Run sent you, and as always, it's for the fans, by the fans. Don't miss the cookies.
White Claw is taking hard seltzer to new heights with White Claw Surge. At 8% alcohol, White Claw Surge is a stronger wave of refreshment that doesn't compromise on taste. Available in 4 bold waves of flavor like ripe blackberry, citrusy blood orange, zesty natural lime, and tart cranberry. Check out your favorite retailer in-store and online for the White Claw Surge Variety 12-pack and 16-ounce single-serve cans. White Claw Surge. Please drink responsibly.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jacob Wilco at Knoxville Smiles. Have you ever wanted to improve the look of your smile? We know firsthand what the power of a great smile means to a person's confidence and health. Our team of doctors can provide you with an array of options for helping you achieve your cosmetic goals. From simply moving teeth into a better position, to reversible cosmetic bonding, to full mouth implant-supported dentures. It is our goal to help patients feel good about their appearance while achieving optimal health. Want to learn more? Call us at 865-539-1776 to schedule an evaluation, or visit us online at knoxvillesmiles.com.
Running a business, coaching a team, planning your next big event? You need more than just gear. You need SM Athletics and Logo Solutions. Custom uniforms, branded apparel, promotional products, done right, done fast, and built to show off your brand with pride. From local businesses to high schools to major universities, SM Athletics is trusted by winners. Get real service, get real quality, get noticed. SM Athletics and Logo Solutions, where your brand comes to life.
Visit smathletics.com and let's build something great together.
Fan Run Radio, the flagship station for Tennessee fans.
This ain't no wishy-washy, limp-wristed, kale-eating, half-ass sports radio station.
We're your in-your-face, truth-telling, say it loud, flag-waving, face-painting, hardcore, bring the noise, causing a ruckus, don't give a damn sports station.
Sports talk that doesn't just hang up and listen.
For the fans. This is Fan Run Radio. Get some.
All right, back here on the playbook. We appreciate you hanging out with us on this fine Monday. So much to cover today. You got to enjoy these times right now, because here in like 2 months, it's going to be silly season where it's just like, rank your top 5 favorite games of all time. You got to embrace these days right now. Orange and white game went down this weekend. Well, it says game, but it's more so practice or come out and watch the guys run a couple of plays. But Tennessee concluded its spring with its 15th and final practice as nearly 48,000 fans watched the Volunteers hold their annual orange and white game on Saturday afternoon inside Neyland Stadium. The free admission experience featured individual periods, special teams work, pressure kicks, and scrimmaging with the first, second, and third teams. Quarterbacks George McIntyre and Faison Brandon each took snaps with the first and second teams, while Colorado transfer Ryan Staub fired a 75-yard touchdown to Carson Whitehead with the third team. And this is what Josh Heupel had to say, quote, "Each of them," referring to those quarterbacks, "has to be on their journey of building and mastering the fundamentals, their technique, ownership, and the scheme, and that's what we do. And then mastering what's happening on the other side of the football too," said 6th-year Tennessee head coach Josh Heupel. Much of the spring focus has been on the defensive play under Jim Knowles, and that was a big takeaway from Saturday's event. The Vols retooled their secondary with several transfers and returned safety Edris Farouk and freshman All-American cornerback Ty Redmond. They also feature a loaded linebacker room with Arian Carter, Jeremiah Thielander, Edwin Spillman, and several new and talented faces. Kicker Cooper Ranvier, a transfer from Louisville, he drilled all 3 of the pressure kicks. And Tulane transfer running back Javen Gordon closed out the scrimmage with a 61-yard touchdown run into the checkered boards. And that is kind of the abridged version of what went down this weekend. Obviously, this was not televised. And before, a couple of people complain about that, the reason why it's not televised is because the transfer portal. Now, you might be saying, well, William, the transfer portal, there isn't one for the spring. Well, there is one for next winter. And what happens is, if you can watch one of these spring games and you notice a guy that stuck out but didn't play during the regular season, that said team can then start poaching and take him out of town. So that's why they don't televise it. I think the last televised one was 2 years ago, and that was when Nico was about to be a starter. But the transfer portal has changed a number of things, and the spring games are a product of that. But the reason why it wasn't televised is because of the potential of watching that game, seeing a guy on the second or third team really pop out and might be a younger player that's stashed inside the depth chart. And that then gives the ability for another team to watch all that tape and say, well, that guy didn't play this year. Let's go poach him and get him. So that's the risk you run, and that's why it wasn't televised this weekend. But 48,000 fans for a spring practice, I'd say, is pretty good.
Yeah.
I was not in attendance. I picked up and went to Nashville for the day Saturday, but it looked to be a good – any of you guys go? Any of you guys check it out?
A little bit.
Went for a little bit? What was the vibe like?
It was kind of what a spring game would be. A lot of families, probably half the stadium got their manual in front of you looking at the roster and the new numbers, and then half of the fans kind of just there because it's unfortunately probably the only game they'll attend all season, and kind of casual football fans just there to support the team. But it was all right. I mean, like you said, they didn't really play. There wasn't really any explosive plays. I mean, Braylon Staley had a couple of good catches. Redmond had a nice deep ball pass breakup on Matthews. And then, I mean, outside of that, you didn't really have a whole lot. I basically just went there to basically watch the quarterbacks and then see some of the new guys on defense, and then left.
Look, as I've said a couple of times now, I'm not taking a whole lot of stock in spring camp and spring practice. I wait till these guys get back to, get back to their homes and come back for the summer after, you've got some requirements of, hey, we need to put on this weight, we need to do this. And then summer camp, summer practice is the lead up to the season. That's what these guys are going to look like most closely to that first game against Furman. So the way I look at it, not a ton for me to take away from this weekend, but I will say I do like Javen Gordon and that touchdown run, bullied right through a defensive back and marched in 61 yards. He's a guy we talked about a good bit in the portal process for the football team because he's kind of an under the radar guy. Played at Tulane last year as a true freshman. He's from Toccoa, Georgia. But had a number of carries. I think he had 120-something touches for 561 yards, 5 touchdowns, played in all 14 games for the Green Wave in their march to the college football playoff. But as we know, not Rick Barnes. I got to get this basketball brain out of me. Josh Heupel loves to use 3 backs. Like even you go across his timeline at Tennessee, 3 backs have always been a focal point. And last season, it was Star Thomas and Deshaun Bishop and Payne Lewis. The year before that, you had your Jalen Wrights and your Jabari Smalls, and you go down the list of guys that have been starters here. Dylan Sampson, can't forget him, SEC Player of the Year. He's always liked to use 3 backs. I think Javen Gordon has solidified himself as an RB2 behind a Deshaun Bishop. My big question now, who becomes that RB3? Because you got 2 younger players in Baker and Morris that are both vying for that spot. But I think Javen Gordon was at least impressive. There was a lot of talk as well from the RTI guys. They do a great job. Sylvia and, blanking on the other name real quick.
Shumpert or
not Shumpert. The
Butler.
Yeah, Rick Butler was there too. I watched their video post game. They were talking about Xavier Gilliam as well, and he was a guy that stood out in spring camp over the last couple of weeks too. So not a whole lot you can take away here, but I don't think anyone lost their job or took their job in terms of a quarterback spot. You'll really just have to wait till the summer to get a better pulse on this. Any takeaways, any notes that you guys saw that you wanted to bring to the table?
I did see Brent Hubbs was talking highly about Edris Farouk being the MVP of the safety room right now.
Okay.
He said he's playing faster. He's making a bunch of plays. We've talked about, he mentions your guy as well. I think the defense is obviously well ahead of the offense. It sounds like the defensive line's whipping the interior of the offensive line, different things like that. He also mentions nobody's really stepping up to take over that wide receiver 3 position yet. Rodarius Jackson's not doing too well, or who's the other guy I mentioned? Travis Smith Jr., I think, as well. So there are some little concerns coming out, but it is the spring game and things like that. But nothing major. I mean, you like the fact you're outside of Hobbs, you're relatively injury free coming out of spring, so that's good. Still a long ways to go. You'd like to hear a little bit more about quarterbacks making plays and things like that, but sounds like the secondary, is top notch, which is a bright spot as well. And they're not running against just like scrubs the whole time either. Some good wide receivers on our side. So, it's about where you thought it'd be, I think, at this point.
I think Rick Butler mentioned some positivity about Quay Moss, the transfer from Kansas State. His play at nickel was good. If the takeaway from the spring game is the defense, I think that's a positive because offensively, you trust what Josh Heupel's got, and you return a number of offensive linemen, you return a number of wide receivers, you return your starting running back. Quarterback is obviously a big thing, and that's what is going to hinder this group from reaching a college football playoff. I think this is a 7-5 team when you look at it right now, just going through the course of a 9-game SEC schedule. And that's because what I've seen from years past of young quarterbacks in this spot, just not going to be I don't think McIntyre or Brandon are going to be players different from what we've seen in years past. Now, I think Brandon is really, really special. McIntyre was highly recruited as well, but Bryce Underwood was the top player in last year's class, and he had 11 touchdowns to 9 interceptions with Michigan this past year, and they didn't beat a team with a pulse. So it's not that they can't be good players down the road, but just this upcoming season, I think your quarterback play is what is going to hinder your ability to make it back to a college football playoff or be a contending team. But if the defense is the talk, I think that's a big positive because there are a ton of questions about that side of the football. Well, the Jim Knowles system, it takes 2 years to get under your belt. If it looked good on Saturday, a couple of months in, that's a positive. And you've got a number of Penn State players a part of this group too. Now, one of them has been
Some people are saying they're having an easier time with this defense.
And it may be so.
It's one word. You're getting these one words in rather than, and stuff like that. So I think that's helping as well.
And that's good.
Absolutely. Because the college game's so much faster.
Yeah.
You don't have time to huddle up, and any way you can get it easier is a plus, no doubt.
I know Chaz Coleman was the talk of the class in terms of your most highly coveted guy, your gem of the class. But I think like an Amari Campbell is so valuable for the communication aspect of this defense. DeJuan Lane, having him in the secondary too. Edris Farouk might have been the takeaway in terms of the guy that's the highest performer, but having guys that have been in that system already, it's not year two. It's not year one for them. Yeah. It's year two. So I think that's important, but not a whole lot to take away outside of the, what was the crowd environment like? Just trying to get a vibe here.
It was all right. I mean, they had Ament, Felix, and Jacoby were down there on the field. I guess they were there with the recruits.
Yeah.
They were there. Ruben was there, but they showed him, and then they honored
Kamara, right?
Yeah, Kamara, Alante, and who was the other one that was there? One other player was there that they honored too. One other interesting thing, this isn't really, this is special teams, but I thought Harge and the kid from Idaho State that they brought in were probably going to be the punt and kick returners. At least when I was there, Staley and DeJuan Morris were returning kicks and punts.
Got it.
So I don't know if that's just something, I don't know. I just thought that the kid from Colorado and the kid from Idaho State you'd see on special teams, but I did not see them in the spring game.
No, that's actually a good note because, you lose a guy in Payne Lewis that returned kicks last year on the kick return side. And obviously Boo Carter was a member of that group as well. I would like to see some more Joakim Dotson. He returned kicks.
Yeah, he returned the kick in the Music City Bowl for a touchdown.
Yeah. Was there anything on him this weekend? Obviously.
Just read more. He said there's always a guy that surprises, and he said the one that's sticking out to him is his pick would be Kalen Lee.
From Auburn.
Kayan Lee, yeah, looked really good. It's been looking good in camp, and he's kind of his guy, that he could surprise some people. Nick Moore as well is pushing Pendleton at center as well. So
interesting.
There's always guys that pop that you don't know about, like Colton Hood and Jalen Hyatt, Theo Jackson. Just some. We've always had a guy that nobody's talking about that just pops out of nowhere. So it's going to be real interesting to see who that guy is, though. This year, there's a lot of options on this team. Many transfers to know.
Will, any comments on the spring camp, or I guess spring game, I should say?
Yeah, I would call it a practice as well. So I didn't go, but I was talking to my friends. They all went, and they said it was very similar to what you guys were saying. Kind of just, I think it's kind of lost a lot of its spark, right? I feel like when I went, it was like an actual game when I watched Nico play freshman year, and obviously now that's not the case. But they said it was great. They mentioned Kane Lee as well, and then Ty Redmond. It's great to know that the secondary is really doing their job. Obviously, there was that one busted coverage on that 75-yard touchdown early on. But, it's great to see that they're understanding it and picking it up quickly, right? I think, like you mentioned, that'd be the main takeaway. I think that's great to hear. And then, obviously, looking at the offensive line, he mentioned it, Pendleton, and then we had Ori Williams at right tackle, Wendell Moe didn't play at guard. But, just kind of great to see. And then have Gordon as well, because we love the multi-running back system. So I think those are the main takeaways, I would say, from the game.
It's always tough to break down a spring game because if the offense does something good, you're like, oh, the defense, come on, step up. Or if the defense, makes a bunch of plays, you're like, gosh, these quarterbacks are terrible. It's tough. That's the tough part about the spring game. But good stuff. When we come back, we'll flip back over to the transfer portal, talk Nate Ament, what his future looks like for Tennessee, in addition to these names to know before we wrap things up. Stay right here. It's the Playbook on Fan Run Radio.
Congratulations. You found sports radio that doesn't suck. This is Fan Run Radio, Knoxville.
Hey, Knoxville. Surfside iced tea and vodka made with real brewed tea is only 100 calories, 2 grams of sugar with no bubbles and no troubles. That's right, zero carbonation, so it's easy to sip and enjoy. Headed to a game day or party at a friend's house? Bring an iced tea or lemonade variety pack from Surfside or try their green tea and new raspberry tea vodka. Find the can with the sunset stripes this season. Surfside iced tea and vodka. Sold at bars, restaurants, and stores near you. Surfside iced tea and vodka. Sunshine in a can. Must be 21 or older. Enjoy responsibly.
Citizens National Bank.
Life is more fun with a Good Life account, offering extra benefits, including bank travel. Experience the trip of a lifetime to Ireland. Explore rolling green hills, historic castles, and charming villages across the Emerald Isle. Get in on the fun. Call 865-429-7935 today.
Citizens National Bank. Banking never felt so good.
Member FDIC. Smoky Mountain Brewery is the place to be for game day. From the moment you walk in, it's wall-to-wall big screens, making Smoky Mountain Brewery the perfect place to watch the Vols or your favorite team in action. With locations in Turkey Creek, Maryville, Pigeon Forge, and Gatlinburg, you're never far away from a great time at Smoky Mountain Brewery. Try one of their world-famous microbrews like Black Bear Ale, Mountain Light, or Cherokee Ale. Juicy burgers, wings that bring the heat, and delicious handmade pizzas made with hand-tossed crust from the freshest ingredients and their own special sauce from a secret recipe, topped off with hand-grated cheese and farm-fresh toppings. And don't forget, those famous microbrews are also available in kegs for your next party or in 6-packs and growlers to go. So grab your crew and head to Smoky Mountain Brewery and tell them Fan Run Radio sent you. Smoky Mountain Brewery. Eat local, eat good.
All right, wrapping things up on a Monday edition of the Playbook. So much to cover today. We appreciate you hanging out with us over the last 2 hours. Coming up in about 17 minutes, it's The Drive with Russell Smith, Bob Baskerville, The Bear, and Walker Smith, rounding out your Monday here in K-Town. Let's switch back to Tennessee basketball in the transfer portal. Obviously, earlier in the broadcast, we ran down the updated list of names and gave you the latest on a couple of them, including Juke Harris, Tennessee having an in-house visit with him on Sunday. To my understanding, the Vols' relationship with Harris is one of the strongest in this recruiting process, and that's carrying a lot of weight up against a Michigan and an NC State and their recruitment process. But again, not expecting a decision from him anytime relatively soon. But also a new name to know is Terrence Hill Jr., a guard out of Virginia Commonwealth, had 34 points against North Carolina in the round of 64 in the NCAA tournament just a couple of weeks ago. He could be a starting point guard, possibly. And there's so many comments and people asking about Tyler Tanner out of Vanderbilt. Blah, blah, blah. Look, my thing with Tyler Tanner, and I will continue to say it, unless he enters the portal, there is no reason for Tennessee to get their hopes up at the moment. Like, if he's not in the portal, he's not coming to Tennessee. So, like, there's no point in continuing to discuss. I mean, there's so many cryptic tweets I see on Twitter of like, oh, I just heard the news of Tyler Tanner. I mean, that unless he enters the portal, there's no point in discussing it. But Nate Ament is a guy we can discuss because he's on Tennessee's team and has a decision looming, the NBA draft or a possible return to Knoxville. And the date and the deadline for him to enter into the NBA draft is going to be 60 days prior to the NBA draft going down. And that's likely going to be here in a couple of weeks. Now, the draft hasn't been solidified in terms of a date yet, and that is why there's not a confirmed date at this time. But obviously, many players know they're weighing that decision. Nate Ament knows he's weighing that decision. And then the final time that he could remove his name from the draft while maintaining his eligibility will be in late May, which is usually around a month before the draft is set to go. So, if I'm Ament, there's a lot to weigh. We've continued to discuss it. A possible return, you can still make a nice NIL check. You can refine your game. Rick Barnes has done a great job developing players. Dalton Knecht, when he got onto campus, was a really good scorer, won a great defender, turned him into an NBA first-round pick. Chaz Lanier was a really good scorer, but he refined his game as well, became a better rebounder and defender, ended up being a top 35 pick in the draft. So I think there is a plus to returning to Knoxville because Ament had a lot of ups and downs throughout the season. You expect that from an 18-year-old. But there's also on the other side of it, he's got an agent, and he's got a guy that is going to want to try to make him some money, and a better deal would be the NBA draft in terms of that aspect. So there's a lot of different variables here, but ultimately it's going to be his decision. And I think that Tennessee is going to be open to him returning. Greg Polinsky came on the drive not too long ago, said, hey, we'll leave that locker open for you. But as Polinsky said about a week ago in a great interview they did with him, it's a tough decision not to go. And Polinsky said, if you were my son, you'd go. Any bright and intelligent NBA mind would say he should go. But again, the decision's going to be his, and obviously we'd love to have him back, but not something you can count on at the moment. And that goes back to Tennessee in this portal process, because if Tennessee were banking on him returning, then I think they'd be short-sighting themselves in the portal process. Last year, Tennessee was big on Isaac McNeely, big on Rodney Rice, big on Elijah Freeman. Everyone in the country knew about it. And those were their top guys. And when you miss and you swing out on those guys, Tennessee had to pivot, and they didn't find those secondary options in the portal process. That's why they've attacked things differently. Let's go attack the big names. We'll throw our name in the hat for them. We'll go look for some value players like a Miles Rubin out of Loyola Chicago. We'll look at some depth pieces as well. They're hitting all their corners, which is very important. So some of the names we read off, like these on the radar guys, you might be saying, well, William, what is Corey Cotton from Texas Rio Grande Valley going to do for Tennessee? It's just covering all their bases in the event that a Nate Ament does return, or in the event that Nate Ament doesn't return. So I think they've been a lot more diligent in the process. I know that, you want to land a big ticket item, and I think that ultimately is what will dictate Tennessee's ability to make it to a Final Four or possibly be a national championship contender. You got to get a big ticket item. That would be a Juke Harris. That would be a Nate Ament if he were to return. But I think right now there's nothing Tennessee can do in terms of Nate Ament, because ultimately he's going to be the one that makes the decision. But my understanding that the staff would love to have him return, and they're open to doing whatever it takes to do that. But there are other people involved here as well, and that would be the agent and Nate Ament and their decision. Wrapping things up here, if Nate Ament were to return for Tennessee, let me ask this. Would you rather have Juke Harris or would you rather have Nate Ament? And this is a hypothetical. I don't do hypotheticals, but we got 5 minutes left, so we're going to do it. Juke Harris or Nate Ament, which one would you rather come to Tennessee?
I'd rather have Ament. I mean, I think you just have a guy back. It's been culture in your locker room before. I mean, I understand Juke Harris is a really solid player, 3-level scorer, but I mean, Ament's a lottery NBA draft pick this season. If he goes, most likely, you would expect if he were to come back, he could even improve his draft stock even higher. I mean, he could potentially, if he came back, be a top 5 pick in the 2027 draft. So I would lean Ament on that for sure.
Well,
yeah, I would agree. I definitely think Nate Ament, just the thought that he could even improve his game from this year is just really, really a great thought. And at the same time, we're missing a guy at the 4, right? So I think right now you could say that Dede Ames would play the 2 if we need him to, which would be where Juke Harris would probably play. but we're missing that 4 spot. So I think bringing a guy back that's already been in your system, he's a lottery pick now, he's proved himself countless times for this team. I think that would be massive to have him over Juke Harris.
Brett?
I'm going Juke. Nothing against Nate, but Juke's a better proven scorer, and that's what we need on this team more than anything. We've lacked that, and I think he's a bucket from everywhere on the floor. I don't know if Nate's as good offensively outside, and I think it'd be awesome to have Juke out there running around for the Vols.
Heupel's Razor did not like me saying that there's no point in discussing Tyler Tanner at this time.
I mean, we can talk about it. We'd love to have him.
Well, I would love to. Look, if he were to enter the portal, would love to have him. But, there's a certain amount of stuff that we can discuss. And I'm not going to talk about, Tyler Tanner, a guy that's not in the portal, and a possibility of coming to Knoxville. But
who would you rather have, Nate or Juke?
Well, I think Nate has a higher ceiling because if Nate is to return and he refines his game, then that's a potential top 3 pick in the draft.
I just don't know what his game is.
But again,
is he a perimeter guy? Is he a down low guy?
But I think you could see that next step in terms of right now. Who's more established would be Juke Harris, but that'd be tough. I'd take Juke over Nate if it came to it.
Now Nate's probably better defensively, if you want to tell me that.
And that would be true as well.
But I haven't seen him at the 4. Is he strong enough?
I've just seen Juke do it at a very high level. Like you're getting a senior scorer, like a guy that is final. Like older players win, and a lot of these college athletics now. And I'm not saying I would not like Nate Ament. Like,
no, I'm not either.
It's a tough choice. But just in terms of who's more established, it's Harris, and I think Nate would still be great. But there is he's still got to continue developing. I think you get more of a sure thing with Harris. Question from Brandon UZ3MJ.
Mm-hmm.
Could either one of those guys between Harris and Tanner possibly get paid more than Nate if he does decide to stay? Harris, he's got
probably all on the same level.
Harris has a very competitive market. I imagine Nate would be more expensive than Harris, but I really think they are all on the same level. I don't have the number explicitly. There isn't a number for Nate. There isn't a number for Tanner. There is a number floated around for Harris that I know Tennessee has been competitive with, but I would imagine, if Ament were to enter the portal, let's say that. If Ament and Tanner were able to enter the portal, Tanner would probably be the number 1 guy. Ament would probably be the number 2 or number 3 or a top 3 guy. They'd all be in the same range. So I'd say they're anywhere from $4 to $5 million players, all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's see. Ament over Juke, says Heupel's Razor. Ament would take a huge step in year 2. And then Brandon says Juke seems more consistent. And that's my thing, just too. What you've already seen from him, he's already a guy that's played a ton of college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Ament, by no means, is a lesser player than Harris. Ament has a higher ceiling, for sure. But you've got to get to that ceiling. And I think Harris, you kind of know what he is at this point. And then finally, Chris Washington Jr., number 1 high school basketball player in the state of Tennessee, now scheduled to visit with the Volunteers. Again, that goes back to Tennessee covering all their bases. Let's go look at the big ticket items in the portal. Let's look at the value guys. Let's look at some underrated players that could fill depth pieces. Let's also take a knack at recruiting as well. High school recruiting, that is. So I think Tennessee's done a better job in the portal. I know the names might not be as big for Vol Nation yet in terms of signing the dotted line, but I like their process a lot better this year. But that's going to wrap it up for a Monday edition of the Playbook. We'll be back tomorrow to continue breaking down the transfer portal for the Volunteers and much more. For Brett Hollander, Will Palumbo, and Garrett Armbrust, I'm William Pattison. We'll see you same time tomorrow. Coming up next, it's The Drive on Fan Run Radio.
Can't get enough Fan Run Radio? Download the free Fan Run app and take the best Tennessee sports conversations with you wherever you go.
We really need to get some branded stuff. Shirts, hats, promo items, something professional.
I mean, we could just find a website and order a bunch of it ourselves.
You could, but you're taking a big risk. You don't know the quality, the fit, the timeline. It's a roll of the dice.
Yeah, I guess. But isn't that how everyone does it now?
Not the ones who actually care about how their brand looks. Look, if we're putting our name on it, it needs to be done right. We need SM Athletics.
SM Athletics?
Yeah, they specialize in working with businesses like ours. Apparel, hats, promo gear, but real, customized stuff. They actually care if it turns out right.
Probably a lot better than getting stuck with 100 t-shirts with crooked logos.
Exactly. Plus, they'll walk you through everything. Sizing, colors, material, so it matches the image we're trying to build.
Makes sense. What's the name again?
SM Athletics. Trust me, if you want to look like a real company, not a flea market stand, this is the move. If you're serious about your brand, work with people who are serious about getting it right. SM Athletics.
What's the difference between an ordinary EV and a Mercedes-Benz EV? The feeling. Electric is what gets you there. Mercedes-Benz is what moves you in ways no other automaker can. Feel the freedom of the superbly versatile 7-seater EQB. Revel in the inspired, customizable comfort of the EQE sedan. Sense the brilliant intelligence of the EQE SUV. Discover the boundless capability of the EQS SUV. And luxuriate in the flagship meets spaceship magnificence of the EQS sedan. Every Mercedes-Benz electric vehicle offers the very latest MBUX voice-activated AI software, as well as remote access to a whole host of functions via the Mercedes Me Connect app. The vehicle's electric, the feeling all Mercedes, the choice all yours. Test drive a Mercedes-Benz electric today at your local dealer or learn more at mbusa.com/EQ.
Fan Run Radio, where Big Orange Country comes to talk sports. Start your morning off with your daily dose of talk sports with John Reed and Cody McClure from 8 to 11. Then it's Tony Basilio from 11 to 1. The Playbook with William Pattison from 1 to 3. And The Drive from 3